Hey guys, I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and it's the dogfight that you've been waiting for. Google Nexus S, T-Mobile myTouch 4G, T-Mobile's flagship device, Google's flagship device, and the second Google Experience device after the Nexus 1. It still runs on T-Mobile, so it's a battle not only between two phones, but a battle between two phones on the same carrier. 1 GHz processor, 1 GHz processor. Both have 5 megapixel cameras, running Gingerbread, running Froyo. So, which one's the best? You know, this one has 4G, or at least 4G as T-Mobile likes to call it. This one doesn't. Which one's the best? We'll find out in the dogfight. But first, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile. They've hooked us up with two of these, total of 4 devices for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway, because you know we like to hook you up with stuff, and they help make it happen. One thing I like about Best Buy Mobile, when you go in on Thursday to get this device, which is only available at Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out the door paying $199, $249, or $529, depending on your plan. You don't have to worry about mail-in rebates, don't have to worry about messy paperwork. You get that at Best Buy Mobile, and you don't have to deal with rebates. Enough of that, let's get into the dogfight. Which one's going to win? Who knows? We'll find out. Alright, here we go. The battle between two of the highest-end Android devices, not only on the market, but two of the highest-end Android devices on T-Mobile. I guess you can't really say this one's on T-Mobile, because while it is supported by T-Mobile and Best Buy is selling it with T-Mobile activations with a 2-year agreement, it's not sold in T-Mobile stores. So, you know, at least for me, I don't consider this. I consider T-Mobile devices ones that are branded. So technically, that one's not. But still, you know, for T-Mobile, for two devices that are running T-Mobile, high-end, and it's going to be a real battle between these two devices. Specs-wise, 1 GHz next-generation Snapdragon processor on myTouch, 3.8-inch display, 5 megapixel camera, running Android 2.2 or Froyo there, and it has a front-facing camera as well. Nexus S, 1 GHz Hummingbird processor, so what you remember from the Galaxy S line, 5 megapixel camera, front-facing camera as well. It's running Android 2.3 Gingerbread versus Froyo, so it is running the latest version of Android, and better yet, for people that like Android, it's running a fully stock, non-customized, or non-carrier customized version of Android. So if you like vanilla Android, you like the way it looks, this is the device to get, at least on the software front. We'll talk about hardware in a second. But you know, whereas this obviously has HTC Sense on it as well. You know, Android's open source or an open platform, so you know, you look at something like this versus the G2, they look totally different, but they're both running Android 2.2. It's just two different builds, or two different looks based on HTC Sense UI versus stock or relatively stock, which is what comes on the G2. But you know, the G2, this isn't a dogfight between the G2, but just to give you an idea, you know, there are a lot of differences. But for those people that like the stock build, you know, go with the Nexus S. I'll tell you right out of the gate, I still, even with the improvements, I think they've made some great strides to make this more consumer friendly. I still, given the choice between the two, first-time smartphone buyer, I still think this is much easier to use when it comes to someone that's never worked with Android. You know, if somebody's experienced or even intermediate, this is fine. But something to keep in mind there. Anyway, Android 2.3, 4-inch Super AMOLED display, which, I mean, this display is absolutely gorgeous, but I'm kind of spoiling the dogfight, but you get the idea. $199.99 after rebate, or if you buy it on the web, I think there's a $50 instant web special that drops it to $200. So $200 either way after rebate on this one, $449.99 full retail. And on this one, $199 out the door at Best Buy Mobile. It's only available at Best Buy, and it's available as of tomorrow, the 16th of December, Thursday. And $199, $529.99 off contract, $249.99 for qualified upgrades. So keep that in mind. 3 different price tiers depending on where you're at. And if it's something you're interested in, you better check Best Buy's stock, because the rumor has it that they're going to be hard to find. Now, a couple of things, just jumping right into the build quality of these devices, just the overall, the way they look. You'll see that the display on this one is curved. You know, I'm not incredibly familiar with why they did it. I mean, my guess and what I've heard based on, I don't know if it's official Samsung PR or not, but what I've heard is that the curve helps it when you're talking on the phone. It's more ergonomic versus a straight device. But you can really see, especially with my hands up behind it, since the background is black, you can see the curve. And it's funny because, you know, for me with this device, I absolutely hated the way it looked when they showed the pictures off. When they first announced it, I don't know if it was the angle they were shooting it at, kind of had this picture like this. I'm like, that is the ugliest device in the world. But I'll tell you, you know, it looks great in person, and it looks really small if you look at the Nexus S pictures on the site. But I mean, you can see between these two devices, you can tell that it's, you know, much larger than it looks in the pictures. But anyway, curved display, little hump in the back here below the battery, and then your 5 megapixel camera. Now, common criticism for this one There is no micro SD card slot. It comes with 16 gigabytes of internal memory, and that's it. Once you fill the 16, you're out of luck. There's no micro SD expansion on this device, whereas there is on the myTouch 4G. You can see in the back with the SIM card, there's one there. So you do have that. That's a nice touch. But again, you know, there's obviously not as much internal memory on this one, but still, for expansion purposes, that's pretty cool. You know, build quality for me, well, let's go into the buttons real quick. On the left side, volume rocker. On the bottom, which if you've seen the unboxing, you know, but 3.5mm headphone jack, 3.5mm headphone jack, talking too fast, micro USB charging port, power button, nothing on the top. And what if I talk like that the entire video? Nothing on the top. I get a bunch of comments like, this guy sucks. And then, of course, your front-facing camera in the front, because where else would your front-facing camera be? So you can see on myTouch 4G, camera shortcut button on the right, little connectors here for a potential dock, which actually the dock is launched. Volume rocker, micro USB, charging port, 3.5mm headphone jack, millimeter headphone jack. That's twice I've said that wrong. And a 5-megapixel camera as well. Now the build quality, you know, just looking at this from a build quality perspective, the myTouch 4G wins the cake, at least in my book, and it's a personal thing. You know, this one is at least feels. I don't know if this is these are the actual specs. I'll have to look it up, but this one feels lighter to me than the myTouch 4G, and that's due in part to a couple things. You know, one, this is metal. It's a metal battery door on the myTouch 4G, as you can hear, and you know, the back is partially metal, but it's just made, to me, it's a sturdy, better feeling device than the Nexus S. That's not to say that this isn't built well. I mean, the build quality itself is pretty good. Like, I mean, you know, I squeeze it. There's no creak. There's no one problem I had with the Droid Incredible, not to call it out in this video, but I'm going to call it out anyway. The Droid Incredible, after a couple of weeks or within a month, you know, I'd squeeze the sides and it would creak. You'd hear the battery door creak, which was always a frustration for me. I mean, I may be picky with phones, but you don't feel that on the Nexus S or any of the Galaxy S devices that they launched over the past few months either. But you know, that being said, it's very plasticky, and it's one of those devices, when the screen's turned off, to me it looks just like another, you know, normal kind of ho-hum device. I mean, there's nothing that makes it stand out, whereas this one, the chrome edges make it look great, the battery door is nice, and the accents really help, and it feels good in the hand. I remember when I found this, or got this for the first time from the PR companies, I was really impressed on that front. Otherwise, on the build perspective, you'll notice the buttons are slightly different on the Nexus S than they are on the myTouch 4G. Home, menu, search, and then the Genius button, whereas this one comes with the typical Android buttons, but they're in a different order. And I'm having trouble getting this to light, but you can see back, menu, search, and home. So different order for those. You know, I wish they would find some way to keep those all in order, but maybe this is a change we're going to see on future Android devices. Who knows? 4-inch Super AMOLED display, 3.8-inch WVGA display, as I said earlier. And don't get me wrong, both of these are fantastic. You know, this one's a little bit larger, and they're different in terms of size. They're different in terms of technology. But I remember pulling this out for a standard LCD. You know, it'd be WVGA. It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, the display looks great. You know, the camera is not going to show it off the way it should, but I mean, absolutely fantastic. It blows any other standard display. You order this up to something like the Evo, which is a fantastic device, but you still hold it up to the Evo, the Droid X, any of those type devices. Screen is absolutely phenomenal on the myTouch 4G. Now that said, this one wins the cake between these two devices. This is one of the best displays, most gorgeous displays I've ever seen on an Android device, and it actually works on two fronts. One, the customizations that take place in Gingerbread, they favor this dark scheme. You'll notice the dark gray here, kind of a lighter gray but still dark, and then the black background versus the kind of drab gray that you remember from Froyo. Now this one, this is since customized, so you don't see the drab gray, but they've gone to these darker colors, which in a Super AMOLED displays function better with dark colors. One, it conserves battery life, and two, in my opinion, they look better. But I mean, this just absolutely true black on the top, and then the colors just pop. I mean, absolutely gorgeous display. And again, you know, the camera's not going to do a good job of showing that off, but you can just show you up close. I mean, absolutely beautiful there. So on the display front, the Nexus S wins it by a mile. Now that said, you know, I don't think you'll be disappointed by any means with the myTouch 4G. It's a very good device, and the display still blows a lot of Android phones out of the water, but the Nexus S gets it on the display front. So now that we've talked a little bit about hardware, let's take a look at the software differences, because these are running two different builds of Android. The Nexus S is running Android 2.3 Gingerbread. This is running the older but still relevant Android 2.2 or Froyo. This is the first device to run Gingerbread. The Nexus 1, which is the older brother, the older version of the Nexus series, and the older brother to the Nexus S, is getting it in the coming weeks. And then other devices will most likely get it. There's no official release schedule. I'm assuming the Evo, the Droid X, some of the high-end Android devices will likely get it. So you can see some changes, and I won't go too far into the software. If you want to see the software, check out my Android 2.3 walkthrough on Phone Dog or on YouTube, our YouTube channel. But you can see some of the changes. I mean, most of them are minor changes. They're color differences. You'll notice that the dock here at the bottom, color, the land and the earth is green, phone icon's green, and then like I said at the top, you'll notice that the colors in the notification bar have changed, and then the individual status stuff up at the top has changed as well. 3G, the signal strength indicator and the battery life has been flopped and is vertical now versus being horizontal. Time, no PM anymore. So just to compare it between the two, you can see some slight changes there between Froyo and Gingerbread. Other changes, again, pretty minimal. You go into something like, well, actually, we'll just do it on this screen. Click menu, you'll notice that the menu options are black. Again, that works well for the Super AMOLED display because it conserves that little bit of battery juice, and it really helps in the long run. Otherwise, you see a lot of stuff across the board. Little things, like when you go into settings, a lot of it's little aesthetic type things. Go up to the top, you'll notice that the orange lights up. Go to the bottom, you'll notice, just to let you know that you're at the top and the bottom of the display. And the common theme, at least that I've seen so far in Android 2.3, I've been using this as my personal device to test it out for a couple days. The common thing I'm seeing is an orange and black color theme. So you have that on the on Gingerbread. Android 2.2, now not only is this Android 2.2, but it's running HTC Sense and HTC's custom user interface, but it's running a myTouch customized version of Sense. So if you played with something like the Evo, the Droid Aris, any of the other mid-range high-end HTC Android devices, it's different because even though you'll notice some similarities with things like the notification bar and overall similarities, the dock is a little bit different, or the app drawer is a little bit different. The dock at the bottom is a little bit different, and you'll see that on the myTouch 4G, they're very centered around customization. So on several fronts, you get the option to customize that you wouldn't get on a typical Sense device. First of all, you notice that the apps are boxed in on this one, and it comes with stuff like T-Mobile's App Pack, Barcode, myTouch Demo Video, Desk Clock, all the typical Android stuff, the typical HTC stuff like FriendStream, Yahoo Messenger, T-Mobile's My Modes, T-Mobile TV, Wi-Fi calling, which is a nice touch. T-Mobile's brought that back, and then Wi-Fi hotspot, so you can use the device to connect and share the internet via your T-Mobile 3G or T-Mobile 4G in this case, if you're in a 4G market. T-Mobile set up as well. So you see that the icons are boxed and the dock's a little bit different. You have your My Faves here, your call button, and then again the app drawer down here. So if I want to change the theme, let's go to settings. We're going to change hit personalize. We're going to change the theme. And on this device, you don't see this on the other Sense devices in the US, at least right now, but you get 7 different themes to choose from. So let's say we want to migrate to the downtown theme. You'll notice the wallpaper changes, the dock changes, and then other slight things throughout the device. Now we'll turn it off and we'll power it back on, and you'll notice that the background's changed, and then the slide down to unlock that little portion has changed as well. So again, very user friendly, first time Android user, first time smartphone user, whatever, very easy to use and learn out of the box. They've done, HTC, to their credit, has done a fantastic job with customizing Android, making it easy to use for the masses. Now on this front, it's a very stock build of Android. There are no T-Mobile customizations, nothing that comes on this device out of the box, with the exception of the typical Google programs. Now I've obviously installed some stuff like Chase, BBC News, Bank of America, Advanced Task Killer, Astro, things like that. But other than that, it's all stock Google stuff like Google Earth and more programs. You'll see that there's a specific download app now where you can check your downloads. And then the T-Mobile My Account stuff you see here in My Device, I've actually added from the Android market. So, so as to see my account. That was not there out of the box, and neither was visual voicemail. I added that as well. So you know what you're getting the cleanest, you know, bloat-free Android device on the market when you get the Nexus S.